Okay, so I want to start with something that is kind of embarrassing to admit. A few years ago, I had a spreadsheet, color-coded, multiple tabs, formulas linking to other formulas, and I spent probably more time tweaking that spreadsheet than I did actually doing anything with my money. I remember showing it to a friend once, and he looked at it for like 10 seconds and said, "So how much have you actually invested?" And I didn't have a great answer. I think it was something like $800, maybe $1,000. I honestly don't remember the exact number, but the spreadsheet was immaculate. I'm telling you this because I think a lot of financial content assumes you already have the basics running smoothly and just need the advanced stuff. And in my experience, that's not really how it goes. Most people I know, including me for a long time, are stuck somewhere between knowing what to do and actually doing it. So that's what this video is about. 10 real upgrades. Not theoretical, not aspirational, just things that actually change the math for me and for a lot of other people. My name is John. I don't sell courses or manage anyone's money. I just spend a lot of time with this stuff, so you don't have to spend as much. If that sounds useful, hit subscribe. All right, let's get into it. Upgrade 1. Stop guessing what you keep. Find the actual number. So most people know roughly what they earn. But here's the thing. When you ask people what percentage of their income they actually hold on to each month, like truly keep, most people guess somewhere between 20 and 30%. And then they do the real math and find out. It's more like 6 or 8. A study out of UCLA found that people consistently overestimate how much they save by somewhere around 30 to 40%, which basically means we are walking around with a completely wrong picture of where we stand. And look, I get it. When I actually sat down and calculated mine for the first time, I kept redoing the math because I thought I made an error. The number was that different from what I expected. So that's upgrade 1. Not to save more yet, just to know what percentage you're actually keeping right now. Write it down somewhere, literally on paper if you can. There's something about writing an uncomfortable number that makes it stick in a way that looking at an app just doesn't. Upgrade 2. Your savings account is probably not doing what you think it is. This one is slightly annoying because it requires like 15 minutes of actual action. But here's the situation. Inflation in 2026 is running somewhere between 3.1 and 3.4%, depending on what category you're looking at. Most standard savings accounts are paying around 0.4 or 0.5%. So if you've got money just sitting there, you're not saving it in any real sense. You're just watching it get a little less valuable every year, not dramatically. More like you put $100,000 in a savings account, and 2 or 3 years later, it's technically the same number, but it buys noticeably less stuff. The fix is not complicated. High-yield savings accounts and money market accounts are currently offering anywhere from 4.5 to 5.1% APY as of early 2026. Same FDIC protection, same accessibility, just more interest. I know this sounds like the most basic thing ever, but honestly, a lot of people haven't made this switch yet, and I'm not sure why. I think it's just one of those things where you assume you already did it, or you assume it won't matter that much. It matters. Upgrade 3. Automate the saving before your brain gets involved. Okay, so this one I feel pretty strongly about. There's actually research on this from a paper published in the American Economic Review by Thaler and Benartzi. And the basic finding is that when savings are automated, people save dramatically more, not because they suddenly became more disciplined, but because they removed the decision. Which, yeah, makes total sense when you think about it. The default human behavior is to spend what's available. That's just kind of how we're wired. So if you're relying on yourself to manually move money to savings every month, after you've already seen it in your account, you are playing against a very unfavorable pattern. The upgrade is to set up an automatic transfer that fires the same day your paycheck hits, even if it's small, even if it's $70. The amount is almost secondary right now. What you're actually building is a habit that runs without you. Mine goes out at 8 a.m. on the 1st and 15th. By the time I check my account in the morning, it's already gone. And weirdly, after a while, you just stop thinking about it. Upgrade 4. Invest before you feel ready. Actually, wait, let me rephrase that. Because invest before you feel ready sounds like a poster someone would hang in a co-working space. What I mean is more specific. There is a threshold most people are waiting for before they start. More income, more stability, a bigger emergency fund, some vague sense that the timing is right. And the problem is that threshold keeps moving. Here's the math that messed with my head when I first saw it. A 25-year-old who puts $200 a month into something like VOO, a broad index fund that tracks the S&P 500, assuming historical average returns around 10% annually, ends up with roughly $1.3 million by age 65. Someone who starts the exact same thing at 35, same amount, same fund, ends up with around $452,000. The 10-year delay cost them close to $850,000. Not because of a mistake they made, because of something they kept putting off. I don't say that to be harsh. I say it because I spent years in the "I'll start soon" category, and I genuinely wish someone had just shown me that number earlier. Upgrade 5. Calculate what your debt is actually costing you, not the rate, the real number. So most people know their interest rate, 20-something% on a credit card, whatever it is. But here's what that actually looks like in practice. If you carry $6,000 on a card at 24% APR, and you only make minimum payments, you end up paying somewhere around $14,000. Before that balance is gone, you borrowed $6,000. You return over $14,000. And I know that sounds extreme, but the math on minimum payments is genuinely one of those things where you kind of have to see the number to really feel it. I'm not going to tell you to panic about your debt. The upgrade is just to go run that actual calculation for your situation. There are free calculators everywhere online. It takes 5 minutes. And for most people, seeing the real number changes how urgent it feels, in a way that knowing the interest rate just doesn't. All right, we're about halfway through these 10. And I want to briefly acknowledge something before we keep going. The first 5 upgrades are mostly mechanical. Systems, numbers, accounts. The next 5 get into slightly different territory. And honestly, I think these are the ones most finance content glosses over, because they're harder to make into a clean list. But in my experience, they're the ones that actually determine whether the mechanical stuff sticks long term. Upgrade 6. Find at least one thing you can get paid for, outside of your main job. Look, I know this sounds like I'm about to tell you to start a side hustle and post on social media every day. I'm not. What I mean is more targeted than that. A report from the Federal Reserve's survey on economic well-being found that people with even one additional income stream reported lower financial stress and higher savings rates than people relying on a single source of income. And it makes sense. If 100% of your money comes from one place, then that one place has a lot of power over your life. The upgrade is not to build an empire. It's to identify one skill you already have and find a single client, a single platform, a single use case, where someone will pay you for it outside of your regular job. Could be consulting, could be writing, could be fixing things, teaching things, building things. Even a few $100s a month from a second source changes the math on your savings rate and does something to your stress level that I didn't fully understand until I had it. Upgrade 7. Learn enough about your taxes to stop leaving money behind. This one I'll keep fairly short because the specifics depend a lot on your situation. But here's the basic thing I want you to know. In 2026, the IRS allows you to contribute up to $23,500 to a 401k and up to $7,000 to a Roth IRA. Most people are not hitting those limits, which is fine. Not everyone can. But the thing most people don't realize is that contributing to a traditional 401k or IRA reduces your taxable income now, which means you're effectively investing a portion of money that would have gone to taxes anyway. That's not a loophole. That's just the intended function of these accounts. I went like 3 years before someone explained that to me clearly. And when they did, I felt a little dumb for not knowing it. But that's kind of the point. This stuff isn't taught anywhere automatically. You have to go find it. Upgrade 8. Treat your credit score like it's actually useful, because it kind of is. I think a lot of people in the personal finance world either obsess over credit scores or dismiss them entirely as something only people in debt care about. The reality is somewhere in the middle. Your credit score affects your mortgage rate. It affects whether you can rent certain apartments. In a lot of states, it affects insurance premiums. And if you ever want to use any kind of leverage to build wealth, it controls what's available to you and at what cost. 3 things that actually move it. Keep your utilization below 10%, not 30%. Most people don't know the 10% threshold is where it really improves. Request a credit limit increase on existing cards every year or so. Not to spend more, just to improve the utilization ratio without changing your spending. And don't close your oldest account, even if you never use it. The age of your credit history matters. That's basically it. Nothing complicated. Just mechanics that most people don't know because, again, nobody hands you a manual. Upgrade 9. Decide ahead of time what you're going to do with more money before you have more money. Okay, so this one sounds slightly philosophical, but it's actually very practical. There's research from neuroscientists at Princeton, published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, showing that our baseline sense of what feels like enough rises pretty directly alongside our income, which is a very academic way of saying, make more money, want more stuff. The gap doesn't close automatically. And I've watched this happen to people I know, including myself a few times. You get a raise. For like 2 months, things feel easier, and then somehow your expenses have quietly expanded, and you're back to the same feeling of tightness. The upgrade is to make a rule in advance. Mine is that when my income goes up, 60% of the increase goes to investments before I ever see it in my spending account. Not because I'm disciplined, because I'm not disciplined, and having the rule means I don't have to be. And then there's upgrade 10. This is the one I said at the start was different. And I don't mean different in a dramatic way. It's actually kind of simple. But it's the one that seems to have the biggest impact on everything else. Upgrade 10. Pay attention to who you're learning from about money. Not in a vague, find a mentor sense. More literally than that. Harvard research on peer influence and financial behavior found that the financial decisions of the people you spend the most time with predict your own financial decisions in a statistically significant way, which basically means your environment is shaping your financial behavior, whether you're aware of it or not. And I'm not saying drop your friends. I'm saying look at who you're consuming. Whose voice is actually informing how you think about money? If every person you follow online about finances is also trying to sell you something, then the advice you're getting is, at least partially, calibrated toward their business, not your situation. The upgrade is to add a couple of voices to what you read and watch that are genuinely not selling anything, who will tell you uncomfortable things, and who have actually built wealth, rather than just built content about it. This sounds subtle, but over time, what you consider normal financially is heavily shaped by what you're exposed to. And normal is a learned thing. All right, that's all 10. And I want to say something before we finish, because I think it's worth saying. If you watched this and felt like you're behind, that's a pretty common feeling. And some of it is real. Starting later does cost something. That's just math. But a lot of that feeling of being behind comes from comparing your situation to people who had different starting points, different information, different families who talked about this stuff at dinner. Most people were never handed this information directly. If you're watching this kind of video at all, you're already doing something that a lot of people aren't. That's not a consolation prize. It's just accurate. Pick one upgrade from this list. One. And do something about it today. Not this week. Today. Then drop the word UPDRADE in the comments. That's it. That's your commitment. If this is the kind of content you've been looking for, subscribe. I put out one video a week, and I try to make every one of them actually worth your time. See you in the next one.